All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And welcome in, everybody. Please, 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 please remain standing. It's so very warming to be greeted in that way.
Acetaminophen,
yes.
commonly known as Tylenol.
Yes, that's the thing we'll be talking about in a moment. It is, it's easy to take and often easy to say, but not always easy.
Acetaminophen, commonly known as Tylenol.
To be fair, let's face it, if you had to just read it, a cold read, it might be difficult. On the other hand, if you were president of the United States and all you were going to talk about was that thing, maybe you would be clear on how to say it.
Acetaminophen, commonly known as Tylenol.
You would have rehearsed it, is the point. But anyway, we oddly may, after touching on that, move on to even more serious things, although that is quite serious indeed. Kim will keep us on track today.
Kim, how are you?
And Tony is here.
Thanks, Tony.
To make sure that everything gets on smoothly. It's a big show today. I say that often, but I really mean it today. David Cay Johnston joins us in hour 2. And from the Rip Current, Jacob Ward joins us in hour 1. I know. Hang on tight. Thanks for joining us into the chat first this morning. I didn't even notice. Did you see who was in first, Kim?
Oh, no. Who was it?
I don't know. I'm saying I don't know. I'll look.
I'll scroll back.
At 6:37 a.m., Zero
Sum
jumped in.
Yeah.
Yeah. A Sask. Oh, I don't know what that. Oh, okay. I'm now going to skip right ahead to the newest offering at the Thompson estate, and that is this: the Peacefully Resist mug.
Okay.
Which is a gorgeous, gorgeous item in our Get Mark merch store. Peacefully Resist. I love this mug, and I must tell you, it may be.
I like the size of it and that it has a big handle where you can actually stick your fingers through there.
Oh, it's a great big handle for our great big mitts and our big, beautiful coffee. GetMarkMerch.com is where you get it. The website has been really kind of buffed up with some additional offerings, this among them. So check it out. The Peacefully Resist mug, I really like. And our logo is on the back. And then there's a different version of it. Also, you'll see, if you like the old kind of square logo, there, yeah, Tony's got it. The square logo on the black mug.
Yeah.
But the new big mugs are terrific. Born to Peacefully Resist is the... Yeah, I love that font. So we have to order this stuff, and I have to buy it in order to see it. So the first stuff, the font wasn't quite big enough, so the second stuff which is coming out. Like if you get it now, it's all exactly where we want it. But I just really like it now. Now that alongside T-shirts and other stuff, but it's all getmarkmerch.com. But I mentioned it because of the today. The mug is getting its debut. Also, I wanted to mention something else. This is sort of the lighter stuff before we get into the heavy. I was at a yard sale for friend of the show, former friend of the show. She passed away, sadly, Allie Willis. Now, Allie Willis, you may recall, she wrote September with Earth, Wind, and Fire. She wrote Neutron Dance with the Pointer Sisters. She wrote the theme to Friends, the TV series.
Awesome.
She's a brilliant creative force, was a dear friend of mine at birthdays and New Year's Eve and all. I mean, she like that person you always wanted around you as you celebrated stuff, you know. And her home was a huge party house. And she had some of the most famous parties. She was in People magazine, all this stuff for these famous Hollywood parties. Sadly, I didn't know her then. But I was in the San Francisco Bay Area, I think, when she was partying it up. There is Allie. She wrote the Color Purple music along with Brenda Russell. And she got a Tony Award for that. So she's Grammy winner, Tony winner, of course, all this great stuff. So all of her stuff in her house, a lot of it is kitsch. She was the queen of kitsch, sort of this of a time stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're having this yard sale to raise money for her foundation that continues in sort of the legacy of Allee Willis to musicians who are coming up. And this Willis Wonderland, as it's called, they had this yard sale. And so it's going on, I think, also next weekend, but we went for opening weekend. I'll go next weekend too. And they have all this cool stuff, and they have some political stuff, all right? There is Allie, yeah. And I mentioned it because it's political. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't even mention it on the show, but they have these mystery bags, okay? So it's, you buy this for whatever it was, and it has mystery bag, and the mystery bag says, this is GOP pop stuff in here.
Okay.
So I open up the bag. No idea what it is, of course. And it's a Ross Perot
door hanger.
Door hanger, thank you. Yeah, there is the Ross Perot door hanger. And there is the Ronnie and Nancy Reagan First Family paper doll.
Oh, how
and
funny.
Cutout book.
That's cute.
Yeah, that's when President Reagan was, of course, in the White House. Then there is this, the Sarah Palin Wacky Wobbler bobblehead.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Think it might go up on the shelf.
That's a good mystery bag. Mm-hmm.
It's a very strong mystery bag. I agree. And it's not done all. It's almost done. The smoking donkey. You'll note you push, what does it say? You push down the ears. See, that's where you put, and the cigarette appears.
Oh, right in the rear end.
In the rear. Yeah, it's a very smoking donkey. So, of course, that's the, anyway. Those are your political offerings from, and this, not political, but from, I have this for the boomers in the audience. This is the love means never having to say you're sorry. It's like a, what do you call that? The music box thing where you turn it and it,
Yeah.
That's from Love Story, which was before your time, Kim, before your time, Tony. But it was all the rage, Love Story, the Eric Siegel novel that then went on to be a movie with Ryan O'Neal and Ally McGraw.
Okay.
And that, I know you say, okay, like, okay, whatever. But it was a big, big deal of the time, Kim. So, by the way, there was a big, there it is. Tony found the donkey cigarette dispenser. Wow, check that out.
Nice.
That is terrific. We're going to have so many wonderful days.
You might have to start smoking cigarettes just because of this.
I think I may just to shorten my life, actually.
Yeah.
But it's a great addition to the Thompson household. Thank you, Tony, for finding that.
Well, you can put
the Sarah Palin bobblehead, it'll all be well appreciated.
You can put any kind of cigarette in there, right?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's
where are my weed smokers at?
Yeah, come on, roll me a reef, baby. Ricky O'Bear 1 says, for my reefer. Yeah. All right.
I'd like to ask for a recess.
Yeah, sorry about that. So, I know it's all boomer stuff. That's all. That's my little boomer segment. Great to have everybody on board. By the way, the Chit mugs are back. Yeah, the new mugs at getmarkmerch.com will include Chit. It is Rapture Day, though, so get your merch soon.
Yeah.
You can't take it with you. At least you can't take all of it with you. You may be able to take some of it with you. And definitely, if you get a Chit mug or any of the mugs, you definitely want to see if you're allowed to take it with you. Mark, smoke a salmon gummy and reminisce. Oh, I love the sound of that. Yeah. Nostalgia is such a sweet thing, isn't it? All right. Well, look, Let's all take a Tylenol and get on with the show. It's a big day, and there's a lot to talk about. So.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I want to talk about the Justice Department, the weaponization of the Justice Department in America. We'll do it with David Cay Johnston in hour 2 primarily, also probably a little bit with Jake at the bottom of this hour. But I wanted to start with just the last, I guess it's been 12 to 24 hours, during which Donald Trump made a major announcement with his Health and Human Services Secretary alongside, I think Dr. Oz was there, and a couple of others from the world of, is it, what do they call it?
Maha.
Maha, thank you, Kim. Yeah. So here was the announcement a little bit on the Tylenol issue, and then I'll give you some reaction from the health community. Go ahead. This is the president. He approaches the, I said I wanted the whole thing, and Tony really gives me the whole thing. Him walking up to the platform. If you're just
I've been
listening.
waiting for this meeting for 20 years, actually.
Wow.
That's a long wait.
And
by
it's not
Oz
that
and
everything's
RFK
100% understood or known, but I think we've made a lot of strides. I wish it was done a long time ago.
That's the trio
Today,
of
we're
trust.
delighted to be joined by America's top medical and public health professionals as we announce
really? Are they gonna be
historic
coming in
steps
later?
to
Because they're
confront
not
the
there in front of
crisis
you.
of autism. Horrible crisis. I want to thank the man who brought this issue to the forefront of American politics along with me. And we actually met in my office, is it like 20 years ago, Bobby? It's probably 20 years ago in New York. I was a developer, as you probably heard, and I always had very strong feelings about autism and how it happened and where it came from. And he and I don't know, the word got out, and I wouldn't say that people were very understanding of where we were, but it's turning out that we understood a lot more than a lot of people who studied it, we think. And I say we think because I don't think they were really letting the public know what they knew. Thanks as well to the director of the National Institute of Health, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty McCary. These are great people. Administrator of the Centers for Medicine and Medicaid Services, Dr. Mehmet Oz, and Acting Assistant Secretary of HHS, Dr. Dorothy Fink.
He's okay through turn one now. Here comes turn two.
Thank you very much. The meteoric rise in autism is among the most alarming public health developments in history. There's never been anything like this. Just a few decades ago, 1 in 10,000 children had autism. So that's not a long time. And
I don't know. Did something freeze up? Did I freeze up?
I think Trump froze up there is what I think.
Anyway.
Yeah.
By the way, the statistics that he offers are,
boys,
of course, concocted. They just don't. In fact,
No,
if you want to, okay, you got it back, Tony? No. I was going to say, if you want to see how off the statistics are, because oftentimes when this crowd comes at you with a blizzard of statistics, you go, wow, that is pretty damning. I'll play for you a little run where all the statistics are knocked down, boom, 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 and done, of course, in funny fashion by John Oliver. I'll give that to you in just a second. Right now, we're trying to get this back. I think Tony's working on it. Tony, I think, is frozen. So maybe we have, yeah.
Here's how it felt to me when he started blaming. It felt like he was blaming women. Let me just say that. Other people will say, no, he's blaming Tylenol. He's blaming acetaminophen. But when he launched into this diatribe about women, you got to suck it up. You got to tough out that pain. You got to be stronger type of thing. It smacked to me of blaming women for this, what he perceives as this acetaminophen Tylenol problem.
Well,
I don't know.
I love that you make that point. And I love that you're on the show just for moments like this, because you
not for other moments.
Yeah, exactly. It almost makes up for the drag you are on the show. But the point I'm trying to, but the reality is that I really feel like at moments like this, you make a point that got past me. I was so focused on the misinformation and the utter absurdity of what he was saying that I missed the fact that they're throwing this burden on women, like this suck it up burden. And so I'm delighted that you make that point. But let me I was going to say, he makes a bunch of other claims that are completely false. He's just riffing away. Like, there are entire communities where they don't take any Tylenol, they have no vaccines, and they don't have any autism, like the Amish community. That's just not true. There is autism in the Amish community. And he makes the statements about Cuba, about how Cuba doesn't have Tylenol because they can't afford it, and as a result, they don't have any autism in Cuba. That's just simply not true. Of course there's Tylenol in Cuba. Secondly, of course there's autism in Cuba. And the last thing I would say regarding Tylenol, I guess I don't know if we'll get Tony back. I don't know what his situation is. It's quite clear that Tylenol and autism have no relationship. You can just go back to the beginnings of autism and the first diagnoses, which are around the turn of the last century, and then the development of Tylenol, which didn't happen for decades later. So the idea somehow that in any way Tylenol could be the thing that provokes autism, it's absurd. And the data is just so manifestly clear on all of this. So again, I have a bunch of video for you on this, but if we don't get Tony back, we just may not be able to get it going today. But essentially, doctor after doctor knocking this down. Now, the company that manufactures Tylenol, they are in a very difficult position. And they're in the same position that many companies in America find themselves in relation to the White House. And that is, we know this is BS, total garbage, based on nothing. And we have the data to back up the fact that it is total BS and nothing. But we don't want to take on the White House by calling out it BS. Yet we also don't want to endure the damage and the smear that the White House is doing to us right now by claiming somehow that this medication is producing this condition. And so they put out a pretty tepid response, I thought. I mean, the reality is you could lawyer up here and you could sue the government over this. It's indefensible what's said. The data is all on your side if you're the makers of Tylenol.
Decades worth of data.
So the idea somehow that they're going to get away with this is pretty wild. And again, it's largely the result of, we don't want to take on the White House because they could make our life awful. I mean, the FDA could literally have Tylenol taken off the shelves if they wanted to. So they are walking quite carefully onto these eggshells. But with that said, that was the statement from the White House. And unless they modify it somehow, there may be some kind of legal action. I mean, it just is again, I mean, how much of the medical community do you need to have come out and call this out as crap? And the final thing I'll say is something about autism. Autism is, and we understand so much more of it now, which is why the diagnoses, of course, are much higher today than there used to be, because we understand certain neurodivergent manifestations as on the autism spectrum. And so the numbers go up, right? They fall into the autism category, and that's why you end up with many more patients or many more people who are diagnosed as having something on the spectrum of autism than you had many, many years ago. The truth of autism is that it is that spectrum, though, and it can be this gift. Many who have autism really embrace it. They're far more forward about it. Like my friends who are neurodivergent go, oh, it's my autism. I just can't stop researching this one thing. Or, I mean, it becomes, I just can't stop getting the best travel deal because I just, I'm up all night. That's my neurodivergency, So there is all of that at work as well. And there is the full range. But make no mistake about it. Autism on the spectrum where there's profound autism involved is a heartbreaking thing. It's an incredibly difficult thing for families to deal with, where a child can't be touched, where a child can't interact, where, I mean, it is such an excruciating thing. And that's why when these guys come forward with this stuff, this concocted mess of garbage that masquerades as some credible medical opinion, it's disgusting. These families really suffer. And that you could, just because you want to make a proclamation of some kind, come out and start riffing about Cuba and the Amish, and it's just disgusting. And so families who wrestle with this every hour of every day, who love their offspring so, it's despicable that they have to have this thrown in their face in some way so as to wonder, was it something we did? It's really a low point in a series of low points coming out of the world of the CDC, HHS, RFK Jr., and all of the fraud that is the American healthcare system now. Tony, you're back. Play me a little bit of Dr. Daigneault from the Instagram. This is his Instagram in response to, Dr. Daigneault, friend of the show, does the house calls for us. Here we go.
President Trump and RFK Jr. today just announced that Tylenol use in pregnancy may cause autism. He said that the FDA will be advising doctors to limit their use of acetaminophen to treat fever and pain in pregnant women unless medically necessary. But here's the problem. They didn't present any new scientific evidence today. The best data we have comes from a massive 2024 study of 2.5 million children. It adjusted for genetics and environment and found zero link between acetaminophen use in pregnancy and autism. And major medical groups, including the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, the Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine, the American Academy of Pediatrics, and the United Kingdom's FDA equivalent, have all reaffirmed the same thing. Tylenol remains a safe, recommended option for pain and fever during pregnancy.
There you go. And women have so few options when it comes to treating pain in pregnancy. It's so discomfort. It's such discomfort. It's such a long haul. I think those last few months are the really longest haul.
Yes, they are.
And acetaminophen is a great help to them, apparently. So
acetaminophen,
Yeah.
commonly known as Tylenol.
All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'm excited about the bottom of the hour. We'll get in just a few minutes. Our guest will join, but before I do get to that, I wanted to get to a little of the UN address on the part of the president. Donald Trump, no fan of the UN, no fan of the UN nations, was addressing the General Assembly. We'll just needle drop a bit of the beginning as he was in one of those moods, where he was both riffing and by design focusing on the deficiencies of the UN. Go ahead, Tony.
Likewise, in a period of just 7 months, I have ended 7 unendable wars. They said they were unendable. You're never going to get them solved. Some were going for 31 years, 2 of them, 31, think of it, 31 years. One was 36 years. One was 28 years. I ended 7 wars. And in all cases, they were raging with countless thousands of people being killed. This includes Cambodia and Thailand, Kosovo and Serbia, the Congo and Rwanda, a vicious, violent war that was, Pakistan and India, Israel and Iran, Egypt and Ethiopia, and Armenia and Azerbaijan. It included all of them. No president.
By the way, that's just, I'd say that there have been some ceasefires brokered along the way. I don't think that he's definitively ended 6 or 7 wars. That's massively misleading. There's a ceasefire or a de-escalation in conflict. I just made notes in Thailand and Cambodia, and the Armenia-Azerbaijan situation falls in that same category. India, Pakistan. India, of course, disputes even that Trump was part of negotiating that cessation of hostilities. And it is just that. It's kind of a ceasefire situation. And Israel and Iran, I suppose it's a ceasefire. It was, as you know, we bombed Iran, and that's how you got, again, a cessation of hostilities there. There was a Thailand-Cambodia ceasefire, and there was pressure, and Malaysia hosted talks there. I look at the Rwanda Congo situation. U.S. did broker a deal there, but, there were mass killings there weeks later. So, it's kind of where you stop the music. And I don't know, NATO troops are still involved in Serbia and Kosovo, and I would say there is no imminent end to that conflict. And Egypt and Ethiopia, there's a water rights dispute. I don't know what he's talking about there with a war, but this is all part of his riff there at the UN. Continue, Tony, but that's a little something. He's been parading that around. It's odd, too. I'll just say one last thing, that he's, begun something with American policy that's really problematic, like blowing these Venezuelan boats out of the water, right? I mean, this is just, it's crazy. And then posting the videos, it's kind of like ISIS or like a snuff film that you would show these videos of these boats being blown out of the water, supposedly drug boats. But anyway, point is, at the same time, you're petitioning, and he did it today at the UN, for the Nobel Peace Prize. So I'm, again, there's a lot with Trump that just doesn't track. Play a little bit more, if you would, please.
It's never happened before. There's never been anything like that. Very honored to have done it. It's too bad that I had to do these things instead of the United Nations doing them. And sadly, in all cases, the United Nations did not even try to help in any of them.
And this is where he craps on the
I
United
ended
Nations.
7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen, but she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work.
So
these are the two things I got from the United
States. The took him up to the room, into the main hall, I guess, was not operating. I saw the video of it. So, but he referred to it a couple of times. All right, we'll wrap up, but continue on if you would, Tony, and we'll wrap up.
Nations, a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much. And by the way, it's working now. Just went on. Thank you. I think I should just do it the other way. It's easier. Thank you very much.
All right, so let's call it there. It's always odd.
I mean,
Yeah.
what even was that?
Yeah,
He's at the United Nations. This is an international body, and that's what we get. America should be humiliated. That's the best we can do, is send that guy.
Tony found the video of the president and the first lady. So they're on the elevator, the escalator, and it stops almost immediately, and then they walk up the rest of the way. It is also kind of an important moment for the United Nations, their 80th anniversary. It's a troubled institution, and without America, the United Nations has serious issues going forward. We were the great underwriters of the United Nations largely, and even though it is something of a tremendously flawed institution, the notion of getting the world's countries together and there being some sort of clearinghouse for opinion, it's an important one. But Trump has never been one to support the United Nations, and he smack-talked the United Nations today while he was addressing the General Assembly. It was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. I mean, I just showed you a bit of it. He was in their face about how they're all misguided. I mean, if you listen to that speech all the way through, and I did, you got the notion that the biggest threat to the world is alternative energy, is getting away from fossil fuels. All these alternative energy programs in all of these different countries, they're the biggest problem that face the globe. It was extraordinary. We'll follow up on it, but that was a bit of the madness. And as he riffed, it only got worse. So that's it on Tylenol and the United Nations. Now to our guest.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Here's the dude from the Rip Current. You know him. He, the correspondent for NBC News. He's reported for Al Jazeera, CNN. As I say, he does the Rip Current now. Jacob Ward, everybody.
What's up, Mark? Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your time here.
Yeah, absolutely. You're great. Did you see any of this thing this morning that Trump did with his United Nations speech?
I did catch a bit of it. Yeah, we that Kim was mentioning, sort of what is this? And yeah, the ongoing narration of each thing that's happening in front of him as it happens is a good reminder of what it is to be 81 and speaking off the cuff. The cognitive burden is huge, you can sort of see, but the language and the the insulting everybody and ask them to give him the Nobel Peace Prize at once is an amazing thing. I'm amazed by his ability to do those things at once.
I mean, there is an unabashed quality, I guess is what I'd call, to Trump always. But as you say, you mix that with the cognitive spill that is associated with his age, et cetera, and you end up with this, what we got today.
That's really true. Yeah, yesterday he struggled so hard to say acetaminophen, right? The generic name for Tylenol, as he allowed this, I'm a science correspondent, and so to watch this totally unscientific, totally conspiracy theory based proclamation that pregnant women who desperately need as much pain management as they can safely get, should now suddenly not take Tylenol, should not take acetaminophen. And, he can't even get the name of the word, the drug's name out,
Acetaminophen, commonly known as Tylenol.
And well, I was making the point before, Jake, that, maybe if you cold read that on the street, 10 of us might struggle with them. No,
sure.
But if you're the president and that's the thing you're going to be talking about, I mean, that's right. The drug
right.
that you're going to be expressly saying is bad.
That's right.
You might be familiar with it. Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, right? Like the recent studies show that, right, because only a certain number of people in the country vote at the moment, the number of actual Trump supporters, is probably in the 32% of the country range. And people are talking about that in the context of something like the Jimmy Kimmel moment and the boycott of Disney that drove its stock price down by 2%. I'm also thinking here about I hope that far fewer than 32% of the country takes this proclamation seriously, because it is so unscientific. It is so based on conspiracy theory, and maybe his stumbling over the words will help people think twice a little bit before they take health information from this guy.
And it puts the makers of Tylenol in this odd spot. I was saying, they, on the one hand, they have all these reams of data that are flying in the face of everything that this president is saying, and yet you have this very official looking announcement that essentially smears their drug. It's probably actionable legally.
Yeah, I think it probably is actionable legally. I also think we've been living in this world in which we, I've been worried mostly in my work reporting on AI about the ways in which technology is going to insulate us in these very, very tiny information bubbles. Already social media has done that to us, but AI is going to make that even worse. But when you combine that with someone willing to say these absolutely untrue things from the most important pulpit in the known universe, it really doesn't help our case, I'd say, Mark.
I want to double back to AI and the siloing of information even more in a moment. But I'm also curious, just because you do report on science, one of the things he attacked was alternative energy. As I was saying before, if you watch the UN speech, it was as though that's the greatest threat to the world, the development of alternative energy.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I have to assume that there is that in the Venn diagram of the president's mind, there is both a kind of personal allergy to, hippy dippy alternative energy stuff, and also a business interest in I mean, the Saudis are pouring billions into his crypto schemes and the rest of it. So there's some business interest there in trying not to upset them that I have to assume is it. Because if he sat down and looked at the numbers, right? I mean, California has been, recently producing, it's like the solar and wind that comes out of California amounts to like some of the largest energy production in the world on some days. And so there are huge numbers of jobs, huge numbers of huge amounts of money being made in this sector. And it just feels like nobody has gotten whatever the sort of PowerPoint to get is that they need to get in front of him to convince him just how important this could be for his legacy, how popular it could make him politically, and that it might be worth upsetting the Saudis. But he doesn't seem to have that feeling about alternative energy at this point.
I was always hoping that he would take that political capital. This is in Trump, the first season, the first term. I thought if he could use this political capital for legitimate, for example, infrastructure programs or a legitimate push, as you say, toward alternative energy. Wow, what a great surprise that would be. I mean, then give him the corruption and all of that. I don't care. It would still move the country in a good direction. But instead, and I feel on some level on this one, Jake, I think it's a Republican GOP thing. They have a death grip on those fossil fuels, and they also have a death grip on fossil fuel businesses, such that they want to see that continue into the future, even as you suggest, the evidence for alternative energy is so profound. I mean, it's the lowest cost energy available, and yet still even cost doesn't seem to cut with these people.
That's right. Even if you evaluated it only on a dollars and cents basis, if you're only looking at it in the most mercenary terms, you could still make a great business case for that stuff, not least because it brings huge numbers of jobs, like legit jobs. You hear people spinning people on, the jobs that come with a new stadium or a new mall. The jobs that come with installing a solar field or a field of turbines are incredible. Those are real hardcore union jobs, paying a pension, the whole thing. And so, just from a mercenary perspective, you could defend it that way, much less the larger abstract existential thing we have to think about, which is that our planet and our time on this planet is going to be severely damaged if we don't do something about it. So I absolutely agree with you there.
Yeah, and it's funny, that last point that you're making, I thought as he's speaking at the UN, I'm thinking, dude, all these people in this room, the majority of them get the fact that there's actually an existential threat to this continued greenhouse gas emission program that we've been on for decades. They get that there could be the end here. It's not all about the bottom line.
And it must be so discouraging. I know people who worked, for instance, on the negotiations in the small, Micronesian countries and these small countries that were literally seeing themselves, drowned, seeing their borders withdrawing as the ocean eats their land. And, those folks pioneered the idea that you could somehow negotiate on the basis of, no financial leverage, but just the idea that it's the right thing to do to save a society and save a country. If you're, Pakistan in that room, or if you are, Indonesia, or any of these countries in which the temperatures are truly becoming unlivable, and more importantly, from an economic perspective, unworkable. You can't work in the kind of heat that these places are going to regularly see. To see the president of the United States, the most powerful country in the world, saying these things based on nothing about alternative energy. I just think we just had an earthquake here the other day, yesterday, 2 nights ago here in San Francisco, where I'm based. And I was describing to somebody else this feeling that you're kind of like out of control, that the universe is just driving and you're the passenger and you got no recourse. I just think that if you're in that room in the UN and you're looking up at that podium with him saying these things, knowing what you know about the fate of your own country, you must have that same kind of tipping back in your chair feeling that I had during this earthquake.
Yeah, I think that's a decent parallel. Now let me ask you about AI. There's a sense that there is this brilliant technology that is so brilliant that it's actually escaped the bonds of humanity, to use the phrase, in terms of controlling it. It may literally be a technology that's uncontrollable. Can you kind of give us a reset on that? And then I want to speak to what you were talking about, which is the information siloing that you were speaking of.
Well, so so for many years I've been covering AI since, I wrote a book about it that came out about a year before ChatGPT did. It was early enough that we were worried about even putting the word AI on the cover of it because we thought that people wouldn't know about it. And now I feel stupid about that. But, back then my thesis, and it continues to be, is that the Terminator scenario, that somehow this thing is going to become self-aware and enslave us all, is not the one I am worried about. I think maybe down the road there's a possibility of that, but the smart people that I speak to, the analysts and the technical people that I speak to, say we are not currently on a technical path to that. The architecture of what we are currently using every day in the form of ChatGPT is not something that's going to turn into a self-aware Skynet that's going to enslave us all. What I'm worried about, what I worried about in the book, and I continue to worry about, is that this very primitive, fun, cut and paste ChatGPT and generative AI, image creators, these kinds of things, are going to play on our psychological vulnerabilities way before we get to the place of enslavement. So I think it is much more the movie Idiocracy that we got to worry about than the movie The Terminator, because what I am seeing left and right and center is this tendency to ascribe sophistication to these systems that they do not possess. They are literally just creating they're just guessing at what should be said next based on the math of language that they've read off the internet. That's all it is. And yet we are in a world already where people are falling into psychosis, falling literally in love with these systems, turning over their secrets to them. And, I think it's going to have a profoundly damaging effect on society if we continue to let the market just run wild with this kind of technology, because we've already seen the dangerous places it can go.
It's really the magic trick associated with the language model, isn't it? Because it is a remarkable thing. It feels as though you're speaking with a friend.
That's right. That's right. And it's a tremendous research tool, right? I can type in, I have a conference I'm going to in a couple of days, and I can say to it, here is, the agenda of the conference upcoming. Give me a backgrounder on all of the people that are in attendance and the best way to try to get in front of them and get to something they might be interested in talking about. And it's incredible at that. But it's not because it knows those people, and it's not because it knows me. It is only because it knows the mathematical connection between different pieces of language and can put those things together. It is truly, like you say, a parlor trick. And, for me, I just think what I'm discouraged about is that we are already talking about the end of human therapy and the end of education and the end of jobs, certainly, because we're so quick to believe that this text extrusion machine is ready to do all of our thinking for us. As a journalist, right, for whom, this thing, like 80% of what I take pride in as a journalist is something I think a lot of people just feel, oh yeah, let AI do that. We don't need humans to do that anymore. And to my mind, that's going to be true across so many areas of knowledge work, so many areas of human decision and agency. And I just worry at the end of it that we're going to be in a place where we don't really like humanity anymore, that we've lost something really important and fundamental about who we are.
It's interesting, too, that there is an efficacy associated with so much of what AI does, at least at this snapshot in time. Specifically, you made me think of it as you were speaking about humanity and about our interaction with each other, that there are models, you can even do it with ChatGPT, that are associated with psychotherapy. You can tell it your problems and it plays back. In the case of psychotherapy, it kind of does it well because psychotherapists typically say so little in the interaction. And so if they play back a little of what you're saying, it's essentially what you're getting in a live interaction with a human being.
That's right. What we're seeing is that people, I think I know some founders, some technology creators who are trying to build companies that are doing this the responsible way. They're trying to create foundational, AI models that could in fact act as a responsible form of therapy. But, we've already seen, there's this case right now in which the parents of a 16-year-old are suing OpenAI because that 16-year-old committed suicide. And they say that ChatGPT led him there, that it isolated him from his friends, that it led him, it fostered emotional dependency, that it failed to get into some crisis controls when it was clear he'd gone off the rails.
Well, it told them, sorry to interrupt, Jake, but I was just going to say, it told the young person, let's keep this between you and me. There were certain moments where, you could have directed, you should maybe mention this to your mother. It was specific about walling that off.
all the nightmare stuff that you would worry a stranger might do to your kid online, this thing, which he is going to, presumably as a sort of, initially probably to help him with his homework, goes down this other kind of path. Now, that's what I would say, OpenAI, I'm sure in court is going to argue this is not the intended path here. And they are, I'm sure, trying to put in some controls to make sure that kind of thing doesn't happen again. But there are other companies, dozens and dozens of companies, that are trying to create AI chatbot girlfriends. These sort of slightly pornographic, highly sexualized, always available, pay to play kind of AI girlfriends, right? And you're going to have a whole generation of young men who grew up believing that those kinds of exchanges are normal, that this kind of crazy sexual availability is normal, that this, it's just, I think, going to reprogram a generation of young men. And those are those are companies whose business model is based on that, right? So for me, there's this thing of, I believe absolutely that a product like ChatGPT used as like a research tool, or maybe someday even for booking your restaurant reservations, okay, I could see that. But when we talk about, trying to do immediately what the market wants to do, which is try to make it a companion, something emotionally connected to you so you won't stop using the product, that's when you get into really dangerous territory. And right now, there are no rules about this, Mark. There are no regulations in the United States that cover this whatsoever. The states are trying to do it because the federal government won't step in. And so that is for me, the most discouraging part of this right now.
Wow. I'm reminded of the Facebook testimony from years ago, a few years ago, when Zuckerberg's there in front of him. I think it was his first go round. And it was just clear that the people who were supposedly going to help craft regulatory legislation didn't know anything about the internet or Facebook or, ad-supported work like this. It was as though, or even email. I mean, you're dealing with these fossils often. And it's not just an age thing. I mean, sometimes the older people are the smarter people in the room. The younger people are the eager people in the room who just want to, let the S fly.
Right.
But you make a really great point when you talk about it. Essentially, it's open season now. And I think those who might be in a position in this administration to be in a regulatory position, they very much have a buy-in to not regulate.
Well, that's right. And I mean, that's in part because it did them so much good politically, right? Because in the last election, one of the things, Mark Andreessen, speaking to the New York Times, Ross Douthat, says it openly. We had a deal. We in big tech, Mark Andreessen's a big famous venture capitalist here in the Bay Area. We had a deal with society, which was you treat us as heroes, and we'll build beautiful things for you. Leave us alone and we'll build beautiful things for you. And the Biden administration, he said, broke that deal. And that's because they brought in things like the FTC commissioner, Lena Khan, who was very anti-tech and got very smart about it. And suddenly you have senators stepping forward, Senator Ron Wyden from Oregon. Suddenly that's not a fossil. That guy's really smart on this stuff, thinking about it quite a lot. And so suddenly I think it's no wonder that Meta, just launched this super PAC called American Technology Excellence Project that's going to try and counter these state level AI regulation efforts. They're no longer, and Zuckerberg is sitting at a dinner with all the other heads of tech in front of Trump, right? There's a reason that they are turning that way. This illusion that once upon a time, the sort of the morality and the intellectual discipline of tech would be enough to regulate itself, that turns out not to be true.
So the future on some level is bleak when you look at an unregulated AI community.
I am a bummer to talk to about this stuff, Mark. It is absolutely true.
And we've already talked about the fact that alternative energy is an endangered species, certainly in America. Is this snapshot in time in terms of science and technology sort of a grim one?
It is a grim one at the moment. I've had many people separately say, like, man, is this the end of the Enlightenment, right? The notion that you could sort of educate yourself, and on the basis of collective education, we can all sort of, improve society together. There's some signs of that. But I also would say that I have seen some very smart people beginning to sue. And to my mind, I know that lawyers have a tough reputation in this country. What's that thing? What do you call 10 lawyers in a boat at the bottom of the ocean? The start of a good joke. These are people hate lawyers in this country. But I would argue that the lawyers may be the solution here, because you are already seeing lawsuits in which a lot of companies that do very manipulative, very predatory stuff, not necessarily the big foundational AI companies, they are not losing yet, but But we've seen a push in the courts toward trying to hold companies responsible for this, for manipulative behavior, for taking away human agency, for predatory targeting when it comes to marketing. And you've also got the EU, an enormous economic market, really strictly trying to regulate AI, as does China. So the United States is really one of the only places that leaves the doors as open as we do. And even here, the courts are starting to creep into the pockets of these companies in a way that I think is going to concern them. So I think just in the same way that once upon a time, you and I would have been smoking cigarettes together, Mark, on this podcast, on your show, we're no longer doing that. It took a while to get back into a world in which we were holding companies responsible for the death that cigarettes created. It took a while. We're slow in that world, but we do get there. So I like to think that we're going to get there.
I like that parallel too, because that reference speaks to sort of what we've been dealing with the last day or so. Remember, there were doctors smoking cigarettes as they were recommending, Camels or, a pack a day or whatever it was. Or
that's right. The pause that refreshes.
And so the idea somehow that we just dealt with this and the medical community, the quackery of the RFK Jr. world is somehow speaking to Tylenol. And, you realize how, you gotta pick your science and look at real data,
That's right.
I want to double back. This is my last, because I get these emails from members of our audience who are very much into tech, and they'll send me these videos of robots that do all of these things, and they'll also speak to AI, and of course the idea that we'll all have sort of personal AI agents, that will, my agent will speak to your agent, we'll set up this conversation instead of using people to actually coordinate it. It'll be my agent and your agent that'll coordinate it. Like, what could possibly be wrong with this? Speak to that and how that either grows into a good thing or how it also gets perverted into a bad thing.
The stat that I keep coming back to is it's represented in a chart that I post all the time on theripcurrent.com where I do my Substack and my newsletter. Sorry, my newsletter and my podcast. And this chart shows over time where the salary of your average clerk in a retail environment, let's say a pharmacy, how that salary since the 1970s has been more or less constant. Adjusted for inflation, it's the same amount of money as ever. But the work responsibilities of that person have gone up more than tenfold. And this is why when you go into let's say a small town hotel in the middle of the night to check in, the person who greets you at the front desk is usually the only person on duty in that hotel, right, at that hour. When you go, like literally the only person. I've been in that position multiple times. Or, when you go into a pharmacy and everything is locked up, part of it is that there aren't enough people working in that place to keep track of who's stealing stuff or not. So to my mind, the United States is the history of how we use labor in this country is never, if you get to a labor saving place, then we're going to let everybody go and paint watercolors in their garden. So the idea, right, that AI is going to somehow free us up to have more time, that has never, ever been true. There's something called the Jevons paradox that back in the 19th century, this guy was figuring out that they were running out of coal in England, even though they were using coal more efficiently than ever. And it's come to describe what it is that when we make a thing that uses something more efficiently, we just end up using more of that stuff. So my worry is as we use our time more efficiently, you're going to have AI basically, push people into working 10 times as hard for the same money. The last thing I'll leave you with, Sam Altman a few months ago said in a podcast that he and some of his buddies have a text thread going in which they are betting on which financial quarter they will see a one-person, $1 billion company emerge. That is the dream. No employees, just a single person. I don't care how many gardeners you employ, you're not going to be able to employ us all. And so that is the direction that we're going right now, Mark.
Wow. It's so interesting, Jake. Really love your podcast and love your takes. And what is the paradox again? The
Jevons paradox. Jevons.
Jevons paradox.
William Jevons. That thing will blow your mind. Yeah, we are not good at saving labor, you guys. We're going to use more and more of it.
It's the ripcurrent.com. There's also the Substack. We'll have links to everything. There it is. Look at you, Tony, with the Jevons paradox there, the hybrid car example.
That's right. We drive further and further the more efficient the car becomes. Rather than using it less, right? Rather than do that. Suddenly we're driving more and more and more. That's right.
Very, very cool. Loved our conversation. Let's do it again soon. As I say, we'll have links to your stuff under this video and beyond. And I look forward to our next go round. Thanks, Jake
Mark,
Ward.
I so appreciate it. Big admirer. Thanks, buddy.
Okay, all the best, Jacob Ward. Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
How smart is he? Yeah, really, really cool. We'll have David Cay Johnston joining in minutes. I wanted to mention that you can smash the like button if you would. It helps us in the YouTube universe. I know it's a weird thing, but that
with
thumbs
your
up.
Iron rod.
Smash it like a boss.
Smash it
and
with
it helps
your iron
us
rod.
to get this show served to more people. What happens is if you have enough thumbs up, there's some threshold. It helps produce your feed into other feeds that otherwise don't even know you're around. Quickly, some comments along the way here. Happy Rapture Day. That's right. Jim Slayton with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Jim. And a happy rapture to you. I also think it's the Jewish New Year today. Maybe you want to check on that, but I believe that's right.
Google it.
I think that Happy New Year to all the Jewish boys and girls. Can I trust Dr. Trump? Or should I take 2 Tylenol and check in the morning, says Harry Magnan with a $5 super chat. Thank you, Harry. Yeah. When you start taking your advice from Papa Trump, you're in trouble. We don't have to worry about Tylenol or autism because the world is ending today, right? Oh, yeah, that's right. Again,
Yeah.
C.1. It is Rapture Day. Thank you. But, you know, then you really
rapture talk, right?
take a Tylenol with the Rapture. I'm recommending
Acetaminophen, commonly known as Tylenol.
Take a couple for the Rapture, you know. Is Trump trying to distract us from the Epstein files? Well, it is offered often that a lot of these moves are distractions. $2 from Harry Magnan, who says, this is for the kid who turned off the escalator at the UN. Very good. Thanks for that, Harry. Chaplain Fred offers this. Hi, Mark, Kim, Tony. I took my last Tylenol for liftoff, and I'm ready to go. Rapture, here I come. I will send you some heavenly coffee beans. So that would be nice. I'll bet they've got great coffee in heaven. Or whatever they call it. I don't know. Here is our Peacefully Resist coffee mug. I'm going to send one to David Cay Johnston. Peacefully Resist on one side, and then our logo on the other side. You can get them at getmarkmerch.com, and the Johnston family will get one. I just received mine. That's why I'm so proudly displaying it. But it is a special edition. Getmarkmerch.com. Enjoy your rapture, Chaplain Fred. And Cousin Earl with a $6 super chat saying, YouTube sent me an AI Christopher Hitchens commenting on current affairs, and people were liking it. I'd be interested to see that, just out of curiosity. Hitchens is so brilliant, you know. But, of course, he passed away some years ago. Anyway, that's a little bit of the story with the rapture. Glad we're all still around long enough to speak to our next guest. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
he is a Pulitzer Prize winner, best-selling author. When it comes to Trump, he has his history and the X's and O's like nobody else. He's the co-founder of DCReport.org, now professor at RIT. How about it for David Cay Johnston?
Hello, Mark.
Hello, sir. Wow, it's been busy. I don't know if you saw much of the address at the UN by President Trump. We showed a bit of it. He sort of smack-talked everybody in the General Assembly, talking about how the UN's been a profound disappointment, how he's ended 7 wars without any help from the UN. And he talked about one of the greatest threats to the world being alternative energy. It was a weird sort of a riff-filled speech that is, you know, he's kind of off-prompter for a while and doing his thing. Maybe some comments on that, and then I'm going to get to the Justice Department and what's happening there.
Well, maybe we could take up a collection to send Donald to get a Dale Carnegie course in how to win friends and influence people.
He sure didn't follow his that which he claims is, you know, his method of business, right? Which is, you know, making a deal, and you know, he essentially alienated everybody in that room, which is what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, this actually is Donald's way of doing stuff. Insulting people, telling them that he's the only person, who can do anything. I mean, when I've been telling you for years that Donald believes he should be the world dictator, this is just like the perfect proof of exactly that. That Donald has this idea that he is special and unique and the rest of us are idiots. And of course, it's absurd on its face. But his attack on the UN and his saying that, he solved 7 wars. The other day, he cited one of these wars. He named 2 countries where he said he adjusted their border. The countries are hundreds of miles apart. I mean, he doesn't even, he says he settled the Pakistan-India conflict. Well, the Pakistanis are like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, because Donald gave them economic favors. And the Indians, Modi on down, and I appear on TV in India a couple times a week, are like, what are you talking about, dude? You never even made a phone call. So Donald just lives in this fictional world. And unfortunately, we're the victims of his narrative, which is getting more and more incoherent as we move along. But also, he's really getting drunk with power. I had lunch today, Mark, with a retired FBI agent who told me a couple of things I didn't know that may be in the public record. 23% of FBI agents have been pulled off their assignments: counterterrorism, gun trafficking, gun running, money laundering, human trafficking, to work on ICE arrests of people. And that puts the country at severe risk, both from criminal conduct and national security conduct. And, FBI agents follow a motto: fidelity, bravery, integrity. Working with ICE and wearing masks over your face, that doesn't fit any of that. And I'm sure there are many more who would leave right now, except, you got 2 kids, they're in college, you got a mortgage. You're 3 years from being eligible to take your pension. And apparently there's a lot of discussion, my friend tells me, going on inside the FBI that Trump eventually plans to cancel or get rid of pensions and possibly health insurance for federal employees. There have been some hints of this, and apparently it's being taken seriously by my friend, the former FBI agent, tells me, inside the FBI.
Well, I mean, it's the FBI, and then it extends to other parts of the Justice Department, right? The Justice Department being completely weaponized. They're out of the weeds on this, and now it's quite openly discussed by Trump. Go after these people. And
right. And the purpose, Mark, of this is not to convict James Comey or Hillary Clinton or any of these people of a crime. It is exactly what Trump's Minister of Hate, Stephen Miller, said the other day. And the order in which he said things before he gets the word law is important. He said, we're going to take their jobs, we're going to take their money, and then we're going to use the law against them. And what they want to do is force these people to spend the lifetime they've spent building up resources and ruin their economic lives.
And I'm seeing that more and more people at the Justice Department are uneasy about remaining there and uneasy about the bluntness of his threats. And there's more and more reporting that, people are beginning to look for work elsewhere. These are oftentimes public servants. You've made this point before, I think, that, these aren't particularly well-paying jobs. These are people who are drawn to public service oftentimes as prosecutors there at the Justice Department and others who work in government.
Yeah, almost any position in the government requiring the kind of education that until now the FBI is required. They're lowering the standards for FBI agents. But almost all FBI agents are lawyers. Justice Department prosecutors are lawyers, and Justice Department civil lawyers as well. And almost all of them could go to private practice and make more money unless there's a flood of thousands of them. And then, of course, that doesn't work. But people don't go to these jobs to get rich. And that's something Trump doesn't understand. Donald, who never did a day of public service before January 20th, 2017, not one day of public service. He has no concept of this, no idea of decency and of dedication, of risking your life. I mean, what does he say about soldiers who get killed or get captured? They're losers. And what I find troubling is we have yet to reach the point where Republicans, especially in the Senate, find a backbone. How bad does this have to get? And one of the things I asked at lunch today was, I said, Pete Hegseth announced that we are no longer trying to prevent the Russians from breaking into Pentagon computers. And I said, my assumption would be if any other administration was in power and a defense secretary said that, they would have FBI agents sitting him down in a room. And by the time they were done talking to him, a U.S. attorney would have said, put him in handcuffs. And the answer I got to that was absolutely.
And give me the problematic nature of what Hegseth said.
Hegseth has said we're no longer going to try and interdict Russian.
We're not going to try to interdict it. I see. I assume that
every day there are thousands and tens of thousands of efforts to break into computers, whether it's Citibank or Disney or the Pentagon or the State Department. And Hegseth declared that we're no longer going to try and stop this by the Russians. And
it's funny.
What?
I heard that as there isn't any more of this. That's why there are no interdictions. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's not what he intended. Look,
only in Happy Go Magic Land.
Yeah, the Hegseth thing is just so full of incompetence. He's viewed as an incompetent by many at to DOD, as you know. And, there's all this performative stuff, changing the name, and then him showing up on television and then alongside Trump in all of these different places. So I feel as though, in a way, he's a prop. But on the other hand, he's in charge of, the biggest governmental agency in Washington, although maybe Homeland Security is now bigger.
Homeland Security is now bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
Without a question. But, the cover story the Atlantic magazine did some months ago that showed a horse-drawn hearse and Washington, D.C. burned to the ground is just, that was spot on, and it's more and more becoming very clear that, in fact, the Trump people intend to destroy the federal government as we've known it. They have been busy handing out pardons to major league drug traffickers, gun runners, money launderers, sexual predators, who they or their family or their associates have in one way or another put money in Donald's pocket. It may not be his personal pocket. It could be his library for someday or wherever he chooses. But, we have a president who has criminalized the presidency.
The criminality is actually something I would be okay with if there were any competence about the rest of the administration. And I say okay with, it's like, okay, I get it. The guy's corrupt and he's lining his pockets, but at least he's hired good people and they're doing good things. But the wall-to-wall incompetence, the utter self-enrichment that is informing everyone, from Kristi Noem and her boyfriend Lewandowski, and the way that they are awarding these ICE contracts to what's happening at the FCC, to Bessent and his crew, the crypto billionaires who have moved in and are just beginning a process that makes Trump so much wealthier. As you've pointed out, he's now legitimately probably close to $5 billion, largely as a result of some of this stuff. So I want to go first to the FCC then, and this threat that was made openly on that Benny Johnson podcast, when he's basically threatening Sinclair and Nexstar stations with FCC pulling of licenses if they don't pull Kimmel. I mean, it was all clearly implied in that statement, wasn't it? It was Mobsterville.
Oh yeah, and this is an absolute example of the government violating the First Amendment. The government doesn't apply to your show. It doesn't apply to the First Amendment doesn't apply to your show. It is that Congress shall pass no law restricting. Well, that's been clearly interpreted, as it should be by the courts, to mean that the administration can't either, because after all, the executive under our Constitution is simply the water boy who carries out the directives of the Congress. And the FCC has been incredibly timid in the past about licenses. I got a whole broadcast chain forced to go out of business. They didn't technically lose their license. They got told instead of a normal 3-year renewal, you were going to get a short license, a 2-year renewal, which was a signal: sell your stations and go out of business so you don't have to go through the ignominy of having your license revoked. And that was for really serious, decades-long manipulation of the news for the personal financial and other benefits to the controlling owner of the chain called gross telecasting. Here, it's very plain that the message is you will only air that which the president approves, or we will come after you. And with Sinclair, I don't think that'll be a problem. These are the people who invented swift boating. They took a military tactic invented by Lieutenant, sorry, his name
It was in
just
the
went
Kerry
out.
thing. I don't know who the lieutenant's name is.
The Democratic Party candidate for president.
Kerry, wasn't it?
Kerry, yeah, I'm sorry.
yeah.
Lieutenant John Kerry, that saved, we don't know how many, but many, many American sailors' lives in the Vietnam War by creatively changing the direction and orders that he had, and turned him into, a sniveling coward who shot a little boy in the back. There's no regard for fact or truth at Sinclair. Those people are ideologues. And yet the FCC has never gone after them for their outrageous abuses. Now, you can't touch Fox and OAN and these others because they're on the internet, just like you are. But TV stations that broadcast over the public airwaves, you can go after them. In the case of the network, CBS, NBC, and ABC, they are not licensed, but their owned stations are O&O stations, KABC, KCBS, and KNBC in LA, for example. And this going after them and saying, you will only see what dear leader wants to show is flat out unconstitutional. My guess of what will happen if this somehow gets into the courts, the Supreme Court will put it on what's called the shadow docket, the emergency docket, and they will say, well, we will let the litigation continue as to whether the administration improperly censored CBS, say, by taking away their television licenses. But in the meantime, those stations will remain off the air. And of course, that's not the way the court has ever worked. The irreparable harm theory in law is you got fired, you were blocked from doing something, you have a grant to do cancer research, you're a 4-year-old child who's getting treatment. We will leave you in place because if we take that away, you die, you lose your fortune, you lose your job, whatever. Through the shadow docket, they've completely turned that upside down. And that's just, I can't think of a milder word than despicable.
Well, it's so relevant, too, to the last 24 hours because the FTC firing was just upheld by the Supreme Court. And, of course, And
on those very grounds, you
Exactly.
can keep suing, but you're out of your job.
Sure. I mean, I didn't know about this irreparable harm law. That's why you're a law professor. But it's very relevant, as I say, and perfectly relevant to this administration. So we come back to Kimmel, which is just of a kind, because the statements on a broader level, as you know, by Trump, and we've detailed them and run them here, have been. There's been 97% negative coverage about me on the nightly news, which is, of course, just a ridiculous statistic that he just pulls out of whatever. And, what is negative coverage? I mean, anyway. But anyway, in any case, and he's saying, I think we ought to look at those licenses as a result of that. I mean, he's realizing, you kind of said it, drunk with power, that he can put all of these stations on the griddle. And Nexstar that wants to expand their footprint, they want to acquire more stations. They need FCC approval for that. Sinclair, as you say, they're already right-wing. They're happy to, sing from that hymnal. So this is really a moment in time where he can leverage all of that.
And there's an economic component to this. The rule used to be that you could own 7 stations, 7 TV stations, 7 AM radio, 7 FM radio. We now have Clear Channel, I believe, at one point owned 800 radio stations. We have markets where there may be 16 stations, but like 14 of them are owned by the same company. And this is part of another long-term fundamental problem that has led to where Trump is. As you reduce competition, then you have fewer and fewer jobs that are in management and supervision and producing and serving customers or manufacturing goods. And that weakens the position of labor. It enhances the profits that go to the people at the top. And to the extent that these are profits that don't make market sense, they're what economists call by the stupid name rents. We think of rent as that's what you pay for your apartment every month. But rents in this case means unearned profits you shouldn't have. Those are also what's known as a deadweight loss to the economy. So if you have $1 billion of deadweight loss, the people who collect the $1 billion, they're better off. They got $1 billion. But to the rest of us, this didn't create more jobs. It didn't circulate money through the economy. It's as if we each took our share of the $1 billion and put a matchstick to dollar bills. The inability of Donald Trump to understand this, even though he was awarded an economics degree that he didn't earn by Penn, is at the heart of this. And this will continue to get worse. The threats to our national security, the murders Donald Trump has committed, we know 14 so far.
You're talking about Venezuela, is what you're talking about?
Yes, the 2 boats leaving Venezuela, 11 people on one and 3 on the other. And it's not me saying they're murders, it's former military lawyers saying across the board, there's no authority to do this. That's not how you do this. It's murder.
He was peacocking about that today, David, at the UN. Right. He says you won't see any more drug boats coming out of Venezuela. We took care of that.
And this will get worse until some of the Republicans find their spines. I mean, it is appalling that none of the Republicans will stand up to him because they're afraid they're going to be voted out of office. At some point, they're going to be voted out of office anyway, assuming we continue to have elections and they're not rigged. But, even Mitt Romney, proved to be mostly a rubber spine. He'd say things and he voted to convict on impeachment, knowing that Trump wouldn't be wouldn't be convicted upon impeachment the second time around. And it is, if you had written a novel in 2005 about what's going on in 2025, and it turned out to be exactly accurate, no one would have bought that novel. No one would have published it. It was beyond belief that we would see an entire political party's leadership ignore their oaths of office, ignore the principles they've stood by for years, and sign on to this racist, misogynist, fake Christian administration run by a career criminal.
Wow, that's so well said. I want to, because you do mention fake Christian, turn to the memorial service over the weekend. Yeah. I mean, the Charlie Kirk effect, the political animation of young people, Turning Point USA, I think had more to do with the victory that Trump had than did the Joe Rogan manosphere. Not saying the Joe Rogan manosphere wasn't part of it too in terms of getting word out, but really as a political organization, Turning Point USA was the real thing. Kirk, who I agreed with on almost nothing, but I certainly agreed with him on free speech. He was a big free speech proponent.
If he wasn't going to kill you over your speech.
Right, that's true. There is that, yeah. I mean, he really had said some things that really were, despicable. But again, his answer to it is more free speech, and certainly his violent end is horrifying and awful. It was a revival. It was the memorial service it was like a religious revival, and it was filled with a political. It felt like a political convention as well, as you saw Trump get up there and make points. Miller, I thought, was even more caustic, wasn't he? I mean, Miller was he was an angry...
More strident than I've ever seen, and that's saying a lot because he's about as strident as the word can be applied.
Yeah, we're not going to let them take your country from you, and them. It was as though this wasn't a crazy wacko who'd taken out Charlie Kirk. It was some normal liberal lefty who had taken him out. I mean, this is, these people who assassinate political figures, they're crazy. They're crazy, radicalized people. They don't represent almost anybody. But I worry that rhetoric that I heard at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, some of that will animate that kind of call to arms, David?
Well, that's exactly what they're doing. And there will be more acts of political violence. And of course, they're whitewashing everything they can, removing references to slavery from national parks and monuments and museums. They are trying in every way possible to create this us versus them mentality. And they're not a majority. They're not even close to a majority with this kind of belief system. A lot of people voted for Trump because they want tax cuts or they believe that he'll be tough on the border. They didn't sign up for the rest of this. So far this year, China, which typically buys 1 in 4 bushels of soybeans from the U.S., has ordered exactly 0 soybeans. And farmers are now saying, gee, we need a bailout. So remember, Trump is also, because he did this before in his first term, Trump is also a socialist, if that word, the way he throws it around, because you're not going to sell soybeans to China. I don't care. And now we'll tap you and I as taxpayers to make up for these farmers. And the farmers don't want to collect payments. They want to grow their crops and sell them. But because of the retaliatory tariff China put on, you hit us with all these tariffs, fine, we're going to hit you where it hurts. We have a selective tariff. We're going to hit your soybeans, just like the Canadians said, we're going to tariff Canadian Kentucky bourbon. People are pushing back around the world about this. And people have got to stand up. Now, there's apparently a big rally, another No Kings rally, people trying to organize. If you can't get 20 million people to show up for this, there's probably no point in holding it. The crowd sizes have to be a lot larger. People have to decide, this is more important than watching the Saturday afternoon football game, to go to this. And absolutely peacefully. They're going to try really hard to provoke people to create incidents, because that will help Trump, who wants to be able to declare martial law. Almost 50 years ago, I broke the story that when Ronald Reagan was governor of California, the National Guard Training Center in San Luis Obispo was teaching California police officers how to impose martial law, but they weren't teaching how to return civilian control. And the answer I got to that was, it was an oversight. It's an oversight. Yeah, right. But more importantly, years later, somebody else wrote a story and pointed out they'd never corrected the oversight. It has long been a dream on the right among some elements, the ones who are around Trump, the Charlie Kirk types, especially the Stephen Miller, Kash Patel types, to get rid of democracy. And Donald even said the other day, well, a lot of people saying maybe we ought to have a dictator. That'd be a good idea. I don't know anybody is actually saying that in the public sphere. But of course, Donald, as you said, just pulls those things out of somewhere.
And he states it over and over, as he does these facts that are completely concocted. On the Tylenol thing yesterday, he was talking about Cuba not being able to afford Tylenol. That's why and look at them, they have no autism. Look at the Amish community, they have no inoculations, and they don't use any medications, and as a result, there's no autism there. Of course, there is autism in the Amish community. Cuba can certainly afford Tylenol; they use it down there, and there's autism down there. And plus, the data, reams of it, decades of it, really speak against the notion that there's any link between Tylenol and autism. It's absurd.
There's a guy I follow on Facebook called Dr. Knock, N-O-C. And he is a scientist, and he does a very good job in plain English of explaining things. And on the issue of the Tylenol and autism, he pointed out that they didn't even read the studies they cited, because they say the exact opposite of what they say in one case. In another case, the N, that is the number of cases that were examined, was 9,000. There's another study where the N is 900,000 that shows no noticeable effect from Tylenol on pregnant women. Why would you cherry pick the one that says 1/100th of that number? Plus, the finding was, well, there might be just a minimal effect, but it's not statistically significant. This is just made up stuff. People are going to die if they don't get vaccines. And then Donald comes in and says over the weekend, well, we've got to stop this having these multiple vaccines at one time. Mumps, measles, and rubella, MMR, is given at the same time in one shot. I'm not a biologist, but I know that every day your body deals with thousands, probably tens of thousands of pathogens that get into the body, things that might be damaging, and it deals with all of them at the same time. And we know from decades of experience. I mean, I couldn't grow a beard when they started handing out MMR vaccines like that to giving them to little kids. Your body could deal with a vaccine that has 40 different vaccines. Donald doesn't know anything.
Well, he gets fragments of information, and on the MMR thing, that was one of those things that was knocking around, that the MMR, putting them all together is bad. That's been knocking around for a long time. And
among people who have no idea what they're talking about.
Exactly, and it's only because it was been repeated so long that there was this shadow around it, and now they do break them all out. So it's but they don't break them out for any scientific reason. They break them out because there was such public recoiling from the notion of them all together based on the propaganda that you're talking about. So,
and by the way, that further raises healthcare costs. And I'm in the process right now of signing up for my benefits from my employer, RIT, for the next year. And healthcare costs, Trump said they're all going to come down. Drug prices are going to go down 1,500%, which is a fabulously wild mathematical concept. Everything's going up a lot. Richard Eisenberg, the former editor of Money Magazine, says his Medicare Part D for drugs is gone up 8.5 times. Every dollar he pays this year, next year, he'll pay $8.50.
The last thing I want to ask you quickly is related to this that we're talking about, and that is, it struck me as he was speaking yesterday about this Tylenol thing, knowing that there are volumes of data that are clear about no link between Tylenol and autism, that there is a legal case here. I mean, if there are real damages here. Now, because of who Trump is and his disposition toward the way he's handling business, you saw the makers of Tylenol kind of walking very carefully in their response. But it strikes me that, if they wanted to lawyer up and show real damages, they could.
I'm sure they could. Where they would have standing and who they could go against is not entirely clear.
I see.
What I'm sure they will do at some point is file to try and block the regulations. And if it isn't done by Johnson & Johnson, which produces Tylenol by and large, it will be some medical group, the College of American Pediatricians or somebody like that, to try and block these things. And again, I predict what will likely happen here is a trial court will say, yeah, you litigants are correct. The administration is wrong. An appeals court will hold it up. And the Supreme Court in the shadow docket will say, well, Trump's policy remains in place while the litigation goes by, turning the principle of irreparable harm on its head.
Yeah, and there you go. See the earlier point about the shadow docket. David, so appreciate your time. Thank you. I look forward to next week.
Thank you. Talk to you next week.
All right, David Cay Johnston.
Don't lose faith.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
It's unbelievably offensive.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
Hey Mark, it's George Santos here. A lot of people are telling me you're a liar.
That's pure speculation. There's always been, in this country, 30 to 35% idiots.
Morning.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Your Honor, I'd like to ask for a recess.
Can you let him finish, sir?
You cannot say you love your country.
That was very inappropriate. Don't talk to me that way.
What do you think I'm going to say to you?
Whoever is producing this thing has no idea what they're doing.
Saudi Arabia pays cash.
Right on, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining the conversation. You can join us live on YouTube with different comments while the show's going on. We're on live every day from 2 to 4 in the East. Shout out to the East Coast. We get the rapture on the West Coast 3 hours later, you see. Yes, it's not carried live On the West Coast, we are from 11 to 1. And then all around anytime you want to check us out on YouTube. And then as an audio podcast on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on iHeartRadio, and on Google Podcasts, and anywhere better podcasts are carried. So really interesting conversation with David Cay Johnston, and appreciate that. A quick note on some comments for those who have fallen into our comment section. I'm a first-time viewer. Welcome, John Stallings. Wow. Welcome, John. Do we have anything for John as a first?
You get nothing.
Okay. Well,
in the rich tradition of the Mark Thompson show.
We do have a rich tradition, and I'm sorry, there is nothing for you, John, except for our enduring affections. Can the guest speak about the TikTok thing? Oh, that would have been good. Although I have to tell you, I don't think you need to know too much about the TikTok thing. I think it's all kind of being played out in plain sight. As usual, there's very little sleight of hand. And when I say the TikTok thing, and when you refer to the TikTok thing, I presume that you mean the takeover of TikTok by a large share here in this country, in addition to Chinese interests. And so you have the Ellison crew taking over along with this small consortium of the Billionaire Boys Club that is, those are the tech bros around Donald Trump. And the platform is going to completely change. They say that the algorithm is going to remain the same, but they're dry cleaning it of a lot of politics and news and any kind of dissenting opinion. The Ellisons are very much in bed with Trump's, and so you end up with a TikTok that, if it does do politics, will likely do the kind of politics that is okay with the Trump crew. But I mean, that's the future of TikTok. It seems clear. Mark, I guess I thought it was clear that AI creations of dead people are a bad thing. It's Erie, not Earl. Good Lord, Mark. Get it right. Cousin Erie. Thank you. Cousin Erie, love you. Thank you. Big shout out to my favorite cousin. Cousin Erie.
Big shout out.
It's Erie how I read it as Earl for so long. And I posted this before, but I just wanted, because it echoed what Kim was saying about the Tylenol thing. The way Trump spoke about women when he addressed Tylenol and taking meds, et cetera, it made me ill, says JT. Yeah, it was something that Kim noted as well. Coachella Valley, Sumatra is the recommendation from Ricky O'Bear. I am drinking now the... What am I drinking? The Clarity Blend today. Yeah, this is in my new Peacefully Resist mug, but there you see it. The Clarity Blend at Coachella Valley Coffee. What's that?
Must be why you seem smarter today.
I do seem a little bit smarter, I have to say.
Yeah.
It's funny. Certain days I do come across smarter. I have the credibility glasses going, so I'm trying always to go for maximum credibility. But sometimes I do need the jolt from CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. If you want to get the same jolt that we all have, it is the best coffee on earth. I've had coffee, as you might imagine, a man of my stature. I've had coffee from all over the world, and I've had it in all the very finest places.
Do you know who I am?
Yes.
I'm kind of a big deal.
I've had espresso on the Champs-Élysées. I've had Turkish coffee in the riads of Morocco.
What a
and
life.
I've had coffee in the finest dining establishments of New York. And I can tell you, this is better than all of them. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. It is a boutique roastery, hand-roasted coffee. Try it out. You will love it. There are tasting profiles under all of their beans, and they have teas as well. There's that Sumatra blend that was mentioned. And they work so hard. Women-owned businesses that they help seed with investments early on, and then you end up with this magnificent relationship that they have with all those businesses all over the world. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. When you check out, use our discount code MARKT, 10% off of anything on the site. If you get their merch, if you get their tea, spices, they have all this great stuff. I'm just talking about the coffee because that's my jam. But the tea and spices are terrific as well. And again, 10% off everything using MARKT at checkout. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Trevor Starr has noticed that with a $10, 10-cent super chat, and thank you for that, that my new credibility glasses are completely incredible. You now have no credibility. He means incredible, like that's not credible. Yeah. That's how that works, right? How dare you, Trevor Starr? I mean, how dare you? These are the finest credibility glasses that money can buy, and I love them. So, but nonetheless, thank you for the super chat. All right, speaking of TikTok and stuff, when do we bring Jefferson Graham on? Now, or do I do your news now and then bring him on? What's
he's
the order?
Here. I leave it up to you. You get to choose. It's the Mark Thompson choice today.
I like making him wait, honestly. Why don't I make him wait and then you
very nice.
And then yeah. I don't know. I mean, he's kind of like comes through when he's around, when he can manage it. I don't really see a lot of dedication, particularly in Jefferson Graham. Yeah. I'm just saying that if I can,
What? Or you could say we're lucky to have him whenever we get him.
I could say that.
Yeah.
But
Listen to me. I don't want to hear you.
I'm making a point about Jefferson Graham. All right. It is Tuesday. It is the rapture, so we better get to him before he goes away.
Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Here's a guy who definitely won't be saved at the rapture. Nope. We're leaving him behind. He's one of the baddies. How about it for Jefferson Graham on Tech Tuesday?
Hello.
No technology is going to save you from the Lord's wrath, my friend, and welcome. Nice to see you.
Do you remember the time that I was in Montana in front of a diner using the Wi-Fi from the diner, and you said, I can't hear you. So that's why I come in and out, because sometimes I have a signal and sometimes I don't.
I love you, and don't take my good-natured disparagement of your participation in the show as anything more than just good-natured joshing you.
Thank you.
I want to know about a couple of things.
Yes.
First, I want to respond to something that a listener viewer was remarking on, and that is TikTok.
Yes.
I think it's kind of open and shut now, the future of TikTok, but maybe you have a thought.
Well, first of all, I was out this morning. I just came back. Did they make it official? Did they make the Ellisons official that they're owning TikTok?
Kim, I turn to you on that, whether the Ellisons have been made official, but it doesn't. It's pro forma at this point. I mean, it's foregone conclusion, I think, isn't it? That's what's going to happen.
I don't know if China has signed off on this thing.
Well, China had signed off on it I was reading something, maybe it was 2 nights ago, about how China had kind of signed off on this deal preliminarily anyway. Anything on that, Kim, or no? No.
Well, as far as I heard what you were saying about there'll be no politics unless it's right wing. How are they going to police that? If I sit here and make videos, they're not going to be shown, and I mean, it's
how are they going to police that? I mean, they can. The algorithm can play down anything that it finds at all objectionable. You know that, right?
Yeah, but it's millions of videos. I think that's a hard thing to say. Well, we're only going to allow so many videos. So on Twitter, or I should say X, they did change the algorithm and they pushed a lot of the right-wing stuff to the front. But there's still, the left-wing stuff is still there. It's still there.
Right. I don't think it was the express intent to do anything but push it down in the case of Twitter.
Yeah. So, I mean, not a good thing as far as TikTok goes. Independent, always better. But, so that's my take. It's not great.
Right. And you think that they won't be able to, police it the way that it's being advertised?
I think it's too hard. And look at YouTube. YouTube has all stripes because people are pushing stuff there all day long. Now, maybe it becomes a silo so that you only see what you want to see, which is how Facebook has become. But, I saw a lot of stuff there in the last 2 weeks that they were not my friends. And they were showing up with a different point of view than I have. And,
Yeah, I'm seeing TikTok deal. This is from Forbes. Looks like it's close to, again, it's all close. President Trump and the White House have signaled a deal between TikTok's Chinese ownership and the U.S., expected to be completed later this week, placed in the hands of possibly a trio or more of the world's wealthiest and all Trump supporters. Again, then it's all about the ban and ByteDance, and essentially having to turn over a big portion to Ellison and crew. But we'll
the
see.
the scarier thing is if the Ellisons buy Warner Brothers, and then
Right.
they
And that's
own
what they want.
TikTok and Warner Brothers and Paramount, and what is that? 50% of the Hollywood output at that point, because the rest of it is Disney and Sony. So right, so
Well-
50%. That's what's scarier.
Thank you for mentioning this, because it's, to me, one of the great issues of the last couple of decades, this expansion of media into a handful of hands. And, the Warner Brothers thing, that is right. Ellison's got his eyes on that, and it's likely to be approved from an administration that's friendly and disposition toward him. I mean, there you go, giving TikTok likely to the Ellison crew. And then you have the same thing happening with the Nexstar stations. That's one of the things behind Jimmy Kimmel. Nexstar wanted this approval to expand their footprint beyond the FCC permissible number of stations owned. And to get that FCC approval, they have to play ball with this administration. And the FCC chairman has expressly described Kimmel in all of these ugly ways and essentially threatened them. And so you had Sinclair, which is already a right-wing crew, and Nexstar agreeing to do the bidding of the FCC chairman, and they drop Kimmel. In fact, as Kimmel returns tonight, he won't be on the Nexstar stations or the Sinclair stations. So, the Jimmy Kimmel show will be seen by a handful of stations that are in between, but a lot won't be seeing Jimmy Kimmel tonight.
Okay,
So even as he returns,
let me jump in on that. First of all, Jimmy Kimmel has more viewers on YouTube than he does on broadcast television. So
he has more viewers for his clips, but the entire show isn't shown on YouTube.
The entire show is shown on YouTube in clips. You can watch the entire
in
show.
clips. Okay, thank you. In clips.
Yeah,
but the way advertisers would typically work, right, is they'd buy in the broadcast, wouldn't they? You'll still get YouTube revenue, but you know what I'm saying. If you're Dodge, if you're, you get it. Yeah, if you're McDonald's, you're buying in the show typically.
The other thing is that there are some major markets that they will not be showing the Jimmy Kimmel show, and that's Seattle is, I think, the biggest one, and I'm not sure if it's Portland or it's somewhere in Oregon. You don't think that people are going to be calling the station and screaming and yelling at them? And how does the station respond to daily harassment from their viewers? I don't think they can keep it up. Certainly in the major cities, I don't think they can keep it up.
Now let me ask you about the new iPhone. There's a new iPhone out, I guess. Yeah. It's super thin. Is that the thing?
Yeah. Okay. So you know what people ask me at this time of year? Should I upgrade? Right? And I have an answer for them. Bigger, faster, more powerful than a locomotive, better camera. Should you upgrade? No. No. If you have the 15 or 16, it is a firm no. If you have an earlier one, maybe. I've been doing some camera tests, and the difference is I see them, but I think most people will never see them. The new selfie camera is a little wider, and it's a little wider. It's not a lot wider, it's a little wider. That's good. Is that worth $1,200 for you?
What's happened to the iPhone prices as a result of tariffs?
Only this one went up by $100.
And this one, you're holding up the new one?
This is the 17 Pro Max. That went up by $100. I think Tim Cook groveling to Trump saved the tariffs for the American people.
Wow. Is that right?
Yeah.
So Apple has a carve out, or how does it work?
There's no tariffs on them. I mean, the prices are, I don't know. I'm sorry. The prices are what they are. The entry level iPhone is $799. They could have said, well, it's going to be $1,000, but they didn't. And, Tim Cook gets a call and says, Mr. Trump wants you in Saudi Arabia, come be there. And he goes. And then where was the other trip? There were 2 trips that he went on.
Yeah, he's been kind of a part of Trump's merry men. Yeah, who accompany him everywhere. Yeah. So you're saying that suck up tour worked?
Apparently for the consumer, yeah, apparently worked.
What's the actual cost of making an iPhone, Jefferson Graham?
Beats me. I think it's $300 to $400. Maybe.
What's the actual price of making an iPhone, Kim?
Google it.
You Google it. What's the actual price of producing an iPhone? Let's have some guesses in the chat while Kim finds the answer. The actual cost of producing an iPhone.
Yeah, it's not $600. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's
on the lower end.
$50 says public domain.
No.
$299 says JT. $299. $175 says Tammy. Gregory says $25. Wow. $50 says Diana. 11,780 says Trevor Star. $568. I love the specificity of that guess. D-Man. $200 from Nancy. Less than $300 says Gordon. The actual price of producing an iPhone. Kim McAllister will now share the answer with us. Or Tony will, or Kim will. Here it is. The total cost of producing an iPhone can vary depending on the specific model. However, it estimates. I can't. Okay. Can you get over to see the rest of what it? Just tell us what it is. What does it say?
Somewhere between $400 and $700.
Wow, that's unreal.
That's hard to believe it's that high.
Yeah, it's not. There's no way it's that high. The total production cost of producing an iPhone,
given labor, and they even give you a graph back here of all the components, what all the things cost, estimated cost of all the components. You can see it there.
Is this from I Tear It Down or I Fix It or something?
So you can add in labor, and at the end, it's about somewhere between $400 and $700. That's what they say.
I just don't
believe. But what's the source, Kim?
Simplymac.com.
Okay.
What do you think, Jeff? You think it's closer to $100 or something?
I think it's closer to $400.
Oh wow, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of parts in there, but I can't see Apple making only $300 to $400 on the top of the line one. I think they make more money, and they have to pay for the they have to pay for the Apple stores. All that sort of. There's a lot of costs in there.
Wow, but that's still that information that Kim has is still kind of in the neighborhood of that. What you're talking about, which is like
the average is that you sell a product for 5 times its cost.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you're saying that's not the case in here.
I'm saying for the average retail, it's 5 times. Okay. The thin one. This is the iPhone Air, and it's the world's thinnest iPhone, or at least the thinnest iPhone that Apple's ever come out with. And it's nice. It's nice. The only thing is it has only one camera lens, so I'm knocked out. You don't get the wide angle, the ultra wide angle in this one. So I'm myself, because I come from a photo background, I'm interested in the one with 3 lenses, not the one with 1.
Interesting. So why would they drop the other 2 lenses? That was kind of one of the selling points.
Because it's the world's thinnest iPhone.
I see.
Yeah. And if you want to go thin, so for $200 more, you get 3 lenses.
Huh. Jeff, where are you? Your PhotoWalks TV is something that we mention, we plug. It's your big thing. It's how you make money. It's how you keep your kids in clothes and your your big bloated lifestyle going. It's how you pay for your Bentley and your all the other stuff. Where were you with PhotoWalks TV recently?
There's a Monterey episode coming right up. It could be as soon as tomorrow. We're going to be in Chicago this weekend and Barcelona the week after.
Wow. I love it. I very much love it. Check him out. PhotoWalks TV. Jefferson Graham joins us on Tuesdays. Thanks, man. Appreciate you always. Appreciate it. Jefferson Graham, everybody. Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I must tell you that we are desperately short on time, but I'd like a quick overview of what's happening in the news. I wonder also if you could get rid of the Jefferson Graham PhotoWalks TV banner, which still sits there on the screen. Thank you. Yeah. I'm wondering though, can we get a quick rundown? Because there's a lot of stuff going on. Didn't quite get to a couple of things, and I want to. Also mentioned tomorrow, the Professor John Rothman stuff through. We have a conversation with Tom Hartman, and we have, I believe, a conversation with Ambassador Francis Rooney. So there's a lot of stuff going on tomorrow as well, and coming up later this week. So smash the like button like you
Smash
mean
it with your iron rod.
Do it with your iron rod, baby. Ain't that the way it ought to be done? Kim's News, and we continue.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee and Tea.com. Jimmy Kimmel will be returning to his late night talk show tonight.
Jimmy. Come on.
He was sadly suspended indefinitely last week by ABC after comments he made about the Kirk assassination and the Trump response to it. But some local stations will not see Jimmy Kimmel live, as Sinclair Broadcast Group and Nexstar Media Group are both planning to preempt the show, as both remain in talks with ABC.
Yeah, that's what I was talking to Jefferson Graham about. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, continue, please. Sorry.
The man, President Trump says NATO nations should shoot down Russian aircraft that enters their airspace. He made the comments as he met with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky at the United Nations today. It marked the fourth time the leaders have met since Trump has returned to office, as they look for an end to Ukraine's war with Russia. The man accused of trying to assassinate President Trump in Florida has been found guilty on all charges. A jury found Ryan Routh attempted to kill Trump while he was playing golf at his Palm Beach golf course when running for re-election last year. Routh reportedly appeared to try to stab himself in the neck after the verdict was read in the courtroom. So that was high drama there. Voters are casting their ballots today in a special election in Arizona, expected to narrow the Republicans' majority in the House. The race pitting Democrat Adelita Grijalva against Republican Daniel Gutierrez for the state's 7th congressional district seat. The winner replaces Adelita's father, Raul Grijalva, who passed away earlier this year with complications from cancer. Speaking of elections, California voters will receive ballots in just under 2 weeks for a special election focused on Proposition 50. The initiative proposes changing the state's congressional district maps midway through the decade. Governor Gavin Newsom is pushing the measure to help Democrats potentially gain 5 House seats against President Trump and GOP seat gains in Texas.
2 points on that. One is, in California, it's thought that there just is a kind of malaise, maybe not an awareness about this, Prop 50, people not knowing what it is. They're a little worried about its passage. But more to the point, even if it passes, California is the only state that's really stepping up to try to get additional seats in Congress, to try to, again, play this gerrymander back and forth. And there are multiple red states doing it. So it's very likely that even if they come up with 5 seats in California, that is, Prop 50 passes, and whatever malaise there is and lack of awareness there is, you put that to the side and they actually get it past the finish line, that it'll still, because of all these other states having successfully gerrymandered, it'll still leave Republicans with essentially a lead pipe cinch to control Congress again.
Well, it's very, it's being fought hard. More than about $90 million has been raised for the competing campaigns. There's heavy advertising for both sides, so a lot of money being poured into this.
You know who loves this? All the local TV and radio stations across
Bring me
California.
The money. Yeah. The Department of Homeland Security says it will not be complying with California's ban on masked law enforcement officers. The DHS making the announcement today, calling the ban unconstitutional. Governor Gavin Newsom signed a bill into law last weekend. It bans most law enforcement officers from covering their faces while conducting official business. This comes after the past several months of immigration raids in the Los Angeles area, where many federal agents covered their faces while making mass arrests. The Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says a recent post from California's Governor Gavin Newsom panicked her family and her friends. It comes after Newsom's office wrote in a post on X Saturday that Noem is going to have a bad day today. You're welcome, America. During an interview, Noam referred to the post as menacing, shared that cartels and criminals have threatened her as well as her family before. The post ignited some pushback from President Trump's administration officials, including DHS Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin and White House Communications Director Stephen Chung. Nobody happy about it.
There's more stuff on Kristi Noem. We should do a whole segment on her. You know, it's just a mess. I cannot believe this incompetent fool is in charge of, well, you know, it's again, you go administration by administration, you go, you know, government agency by government agency, you find it. But she is someone who seems, yeah, that's a reference, I think. Kristi Noem is going to have a bad day today. The Newsom post is a reference to the mask thing, isn't it? I mean, wasn't that what that was a reference to? Or
I'm not sure what he was referencing there.
Yeah, I don't know what it
legal
was.
decision. I don't know.
It was weird, yeah. The legal, but
I mean,
I think
taken by itself, it does look menacing.
Yeah, I kind of
argue. Yeah.
I discuss. She disgusts me. Okay, in every way. I've just told you, she's incompetent. She's corrupt. She's, I mean, and that agency, you know, with these no bid contracts associated with ICE, et cetera. She is someone who I have no love for, but I do think this is a menacing post. So I'm not a fan of the post. But that said, I'd like to just in 30 seconds, I would just say that she is she's such a mess that, you know, half the job she's doing is cleaning up the mess she makes. And one of the things she's really concerned with is publicity. That's why there's so much in the way of spots out there showing ICE arrests, et cetera. And there was a picture of her with a, you know, again, is it a semi-automatic rifle or whatever it is, a assault types, whatever, the military grade rifle. And she's holding it alongside two huge guys who are there, you know, as ICE agents. And she's pointing it right at the agent's head to her left. It is became this controversial post because it was sort of, there it is. Thank you, Tony. It's like, what, you know, anybody
kind of
who's around guns,
yeah.
They always tell you don't point a gun. And I don't know a lot about guns, but you know, they did train me on this part. Yeah. Don't have the weapon pointed anywhere that you're not okay, a bullet going. You know, in other words, you need to always consider that weapon could go off. That's why you don't hold that weapon like that.
Right.
So, again, this was something that the firearm community noticed, you know, those who are into firearms. And so Kristi Noem, again, though, she's performative. This is cosplay for her. Yet it's gross because all of this stuff just is of a kind. And I cannot believe that she's in charge of the largest department in all of government. Department of Homeland Security is bigger than even the Pentagon, as we were saying before. So,
yeah, that picture makes her look very unsafe. California's lawmakers approving legislation to further provide a pathway for reparations. Assembly Bill 62, first of its kind in the United States, aims to help those who lost homes and businesses due to government racial discrimination. The bill would allow people to seek compensation. Supporters point to examples like Germany's compensation for Holocaust survivors. They emphasize reparations can restore dignity and stability. The bill is sitting on Governor Newsom's desk waiting for his signature, but he vetoed a similar bill last year due to design concerns. So we'll see what he does this time.
That's the yin and the yang of it. On one level, they're dry cleaning the history from Smithsonian, from other museums, from any kind of official website, slavery and all of the struggles of minorities in America. It's all getting dry cleaned. And at the same time, California is considering reparations for those who've been screwed as a result of racial profiling. Yeah.
Donald Trump's future presidential library will be housed in downtown Miami. Trump's team has been eyeing Florida as the location for the library for months after Eric Trump and top advisor Steve Witkoff made trips to the state for site visits. The formal location will be housed on land currently owned by Miami-Dade College, adjacent to the Freedom Tower and located on the city's downtown waterfront.
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're going to put the plane. I'm not sure. Is it going to fit on the waterfront? Well, maybe they'll float it on a barge right in front of the the museum.
God, that plane is just crazy. Unbelievable. I
our-
mean, how you could be okay with that. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Artistic renderings are being released of the UFC area slated to go up on the White House South Lawn for the America 250 celebrations in 2026. The stadium will accommodate about 5,000 spectators, and it'll be crowned with a massive arch that will be covered in lights, framing the White House and the Washington Memorial area. At its center will be an octagonal area where UFC fights will take place. See, look at that, right in front of the White House on the South Lawn.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's never been
5,000
anything
people
like
crowded
this.
in there.
No.
You know,
Sure.
hello, America. Welcome aboard.
Yeah.
Amazon is on trial for allegedly tricking millions of. Oh, look at that. How picturesque. Amazon is on trial for allegedly tricking millions of customers into enrolling in its Prime subscription service and then making it really hard to cancel. The Federal Trade Commission suing the e-commerce giant in 2023, claiming it was using manipulative interface designs to get people paying for the $139 a year service. Trial started in federal court yesterday, where the government is also alleging canceling Prime required a 4-page, 6-click, 15-option process.
Oh my God.
Let me say that again. Canceling Prime required a 4-page, 6-click, 15-option process. That makes it really hard to get rid of it.
That is really gross. By the way, I think the same thing is true if you try to unsubscribe to Nextdoor. Have you ever tried to get off of Nextdoor? Oh my God, I'm still trying to get off it. I can't. It will not, it's stuck to me.
I hate Nextdoor. It's horrible. Robot umpires have been approved for Major League Baseball in
Finally,
2026.
I love it.
Part of a challenge system, Major League Baseball's 11-man competition committee has approved use of the automated ball strike system in the major leagues in 2026.
I love that. Love it. Should have happened years ago.
Lastly, a Missouri woman who tried to put Elvis Presley's Graceland estate up for auction will spend nearly 5 years in federal prison. I mean, this was quite the ballsy crime. 54-year-old Lisa Findley pleaded guilty to 1 count of mail fraud earlier this year and was given a 57-month sentence with 3 years of supervised probation. According to authorities, Findley forged the signatures of Elvis Presley's late daughter, Lisa Marie, and a Florida notary to claim Lisa Marie Presley did not pay back a nearly $4 million loan from a purported company that listed Graceland as collateral. As part of a plea deal, prosecutors agreed to dismiss 1 count of aggravated identity theft that was previously filed against her. But again, this woman will spend nearly 5 years in federal prison for trying to steal Graceland. And that's
it's
crazy.
It's
a wild
idea,
but it just might work.
Exactly.
No, you can't steal Graceland. Come on now.
No.
I mean, why would you try to steal a property that, all eyes are on this property? It's not like, some obscure house down the road.
Yeah, well, maybe that's it. Maybe she thought nobody would ever think that, anybody would do it. I don't know. It's pretty crazy. By the way,
sponsored.
Yeah, there it is, Grace. I've never been inside. I've been out there in the gates, but never inside it.
This
Have you been there?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, something. I told you I went down there because they sent me down there because I was on a show called Encounters, which was like 60 minutes, but it was all UFOs and ghosts. Okay, so like the paranormal, but imagine 60 minutes, but every story is paranormal.
Sure.
So they sent me down to Graceland. There it is. It kind of has this 1970s look to it. Which is really cool. I would love to have gone in.
It's stuck in time.
They sent me down there because I guess the house that's adjacent to it is haunted with Elvis's ghost. It was pretty funny, but it was a hugely long shoot. So it started early in the morning. I went to Graceland. I could see the gates were not yet open. And then I got a bunch of stuff from the gift shop. But by the time we got done with the shoot, I couldn't, it was already closed. So I've never been in there. I would love to go. Yeah.
This report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. That's something we get to have every day. The coffee is amazing. The tea is amazing. Please try the lion's mane. The Clarity Blend coffee is really popular at my house. So is the tea, turmeric chai. It's a little spicy. It's got a little kick to it. It's really good. I also like the vanilla tea, the mango tea. There's so many good options. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. And should you find something at the website there that you enjoy or might want to try, please use our checkout code that'll save you 10%. The exclusive code is, are you ready? Mark T. No spaces. No spaces. Mark T.
Here's the exclusive code.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Mark
Are you ready for
T.
it? Mark T.
Not TEA. No.
T.
It's
The
Mark
letter
T,
T.
the letter T, like T and Thompson. Right. I'm gonna have a sip.
That's right. Delicioso.
Very good.
I'm Kim McAllister. This is The Mark Thompson Show.
Right on, Kim. Loved it. Very nice job, Kim. Very nice job.
The Mark Thompson
Yeah,
Show.
there it is. The encounters, the hidden truth. I'll just tell you this one thing. The lady whose home it was, who claimed her place was haunted by the ghost of Elvis Presley, she said that she'd go to sleep at night and the radio would come on in the middle of the night playing an Elvis song. Okay, so
Ooh,
we did
weird.
recreation on that. And then there was this glass that was kind of fragmented. You know how heat and cold over time can sometimes cause a glass to fragment, or and if you looked at it a certain way, it looked like Elvis with the cape and everything. And we kind of so that was her big thing. But this is the big one. She said that she would go to bed at night. It was a woman. She was living in this home, and it's right adjacent to Graceland. And it was owned by one of Elvis's good friends. And the toilet seat is always down because she is a single woman. But she would come in the morning occasionally, and the toilet seat would be up.
Oh, that's creepy.
I know. Yeah. Could it be? She said it was the ghost of Elvis. And that's why I was there. But anyway, I know.
And you never even made it to Graceland.
It was
The Mark Thompson Show.
the whole thing was to get to Graceland. Maybe other blue states are looking at California as a test case, as CC Ryder. Maybe on the gerrymander thing. Doesn't look so far like it would be that way. No mention of the Maddow Harris interview, Mark, from Champagne Wishes. I didn't see it. I saw a little bit of it. I saw a clip. But I don't know. Did you check it out, Kim? Kamala Harris with Rachel Maddow?
I knew she was going to be on, but she's been on a tour.
Yeah,
and
she's on a book
kind of
tour,
been
man.
Saying the same thing over and over again.
Thank you.
So
What Kim
I
said,
didn't
that goes for me too.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's not going to be anything earth-shattering there that I know of, because it's the same spiel that she's giving to get people to buy the book, right?
Ding, ding, ding. Ole Hansen says the Trump plane will never fly. He will rebuild it into a restaurant and souvenir shop. Wow. He's only throwing $1 billion at its refurbishment. By the way, I don't think it will be at his library, though. I don't think it will be there. I think he'll keep it. I just think he'll keep it.
And to use?
To have,
Oh.
yeah. Your tax dollars on the 250th anniversary. Yeah, the Miami Herald, I saw this before. It's funny. I was going to mention this on the show. I was talking to Anthony Davis about this before the show. The Miami Herald is reporting that about 2/3 of the 1,800 immigrants who were held in the ICE jail in July, this is the notorious alligator Alcatraz, have gone missing from ICE's online database. Their families are unable to locate them. This is a big story, and we'll give you more on it tomorrow. But yeah, I saw that story as well. They have disappeared, these people, apparently. And Stella Luna on Nextdoor, I said it's hard to get rid of it. She says, I'm on Nextdoor every day, unfortunately, in case someone finds my kitty.
Oh, no.
Someone ever finds my kitty. It's so sad. I'm sorry, Stella. That makes me very, very sad. And I hope that there's some good news in kitty land. We're big kitty people here, Love our cats. Speaking of cats, David Katz joins us later this week. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, the brilliant John Rothman. Also, as I say, a conversation with Ambassador Francis Rooney, a conversation with the brilliant Tom Hartman, and Belinda Weymouth tomorrow, too. So it's quite the show. Tony, it wasn't the show we planned, but it worked out.
do what we always do it, right?
Yeah, somehow it all
fall forward. That's all I got to do.
It all came together. Thank you, Kim. Thanks everybody for supporting the show, for sharing the show, and continue to do that on Facebook and across social and help us grow this show. And now, the great
I'm
show.
Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Kim's after party is going on in the After Party Live channel.
Bye-bye.
Out of time. Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody. Until tomorrow. Bye-bye.